4 grown men were in my living room with commitment papers and a ticking clock. I am Grandpa Robert, 74 years old, founder of RSG Trucking. They think I'm expired goods, but they forgot who owns the fleet and holds the pen. The smell of freshly brewed coffee still perfumed the dining room, mixed with the aroma of the Sunday chili that I had prepared myself. The white embroidered tablecloth, the one I brought from Texas 40 years ago, was impeccable, waiting for plates that would never be served. My 4 sons, men I carried, fed, and raised with the sweat of my brow and the grease from their fathers' trucks, were standing in front of me. There were no hugs, there were no kisses, there was no pleasant noise of a family arriving to eat. There was only silence and a manila envelope on the mahogany table. Robert Jr., the oldest, took the floor. He has always been the spokesman, the one who talks pretty, but never knew how to tighten a screw. He adjusted his tie, even though it was Sunday, and pushed the paper in my direction with the tips of his fingers, as if it were going to burn his skin. Dad, we have consulted at length with doctors and lawyers. It is for your own good. His voice trembled slightly, but his eyes were cold. We signed your admission to an excellent facility. The place is paradise. Gardens, 24-hour nursing staff. The facility's van is already waiting outside. I looked at the other 3. Charlie looked at the floor, unable to look his father in the eyes. Mike was biting his nails, a habit he never lost, not even after losing half of his net worth in betting. And Eddie, my youngest, was leaning against the door, arms crossed, his face showing that he just wanted this to be over so he could return to his life of luxury paid for by my allowance. My voice came out firm, without the tremor they expected. You think I'm crazy or just too old to sign checks? It is senile dementia, Mr. Robert, Mike said impatiently. The doctor explained that you forget things. It is dangerous to live alone in this big house, and the company needs new blood, modern management. I let out a short, dry laugh. Forget things. I remembered the price of diesel in the city. I knew by heart the license plate of every single one of the 150 trucks in our fleet. I knew exactly what day of the month each of them came to ask me for money to cover the holes they had dug themselves. Robert Jr. interrupted my thoughts by tapping the expensive watch I gave him last Christmas. You have 1 hour to pack your bathroom things and clothes. You do not need furniture. They have everything there. We are closing the house as soon as you leave. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, a sharp physical pain, as if one of those cargo straps had snapped and hit me squarely. It was not the pain of illness. It was the pain of betrayal. I looked around this room. Every photo on the wall, every ornament on the shelf, every scratch on the wooden floor had a story. Here I held the wake for their father, my late husband Sam, a simple man who started with an old Ford truck and a lot of dreams. Here I cured scraped knees, high fevers, and heartbreaks caused by ungrateful girlfriends. And now they were giving me 60 minutes to summarize a whole life into a travel suitcase. The car is waiting, Eddie repeated from the door, with the coldness of someone dispatching any piece of merchandise. I got up from my chair, my knees cracked, the only sign that time had passed for my body. But my mind was as sharp as a razor. I did not shed a single tear. Crying would give them the satisfaction of victory, the pleasure of seeing me as the fragile old man they had invented in that fake medical report. All right, I said, smoothing my shirt, if it is for my own good, as you say. Surprise crossed Robert Jr.'s face. He expected screams. He expected me to cling to the doorframe, to beg to stay in my house. He did not know the father he had. He saw the stay-at-home dad who baked sweet bread, but he forgot the man who negotiated with armed strikers on the side of the highway in the 80s to ensure the delivery of merchandise. I walked slowly towards the hallway, feeling their stares burning my back. I climbed the stairs, step by step, resting my hand on the solid wood railing that Sam sanded with his own hands, entered my bedroom and closed the door. I did not lock it. There was no need. They would not have the courage to enter. They were cowards, and cowards do not look their victims in the eyes when the blow is dealt. The bedroom was dark, the curtains drawn against the strong afternoon sun. I sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, allowing my hands to tremble for just a few seconds. I took a deep breath, smelling the lavender scent of the sheets. I looked at Sam's portrait on the nightstand. "Do you see this, you stubborn old man?" I thought. "You spoiled these boys too much. You gave them the fish, the fishing rod, and you even fished for them. Now they want the whole boat." I got up and grabbed my travel suitcase. That small brown leather suitcase I used for trips to Chicago to handle union matters. I opened it on the bed. What does one take when they are expelled from their own life? I packed 3 changes of comfortable but elegant clothes. I was not going to that place dressed like a beggar. I packed my blood pressure medicine, my wooden rosary, and the picture frame with Sam's photo. I went to the closet. I pushed aside the winter coats I almost never used and reached for the false bottom in the sock drawer. My sons thought they knew the house. They thought they knew where the safe was, that big safe behind the painting in the office where we kept the old deeds and cash. They had probably mentally divided that safe 1,000 times already, but Sam taught me something. What is truly valuable is kept where no one expects it. I pulled the false bottom of the drawer and took out a thin black leather folder, almost imperceptible. Inside there was no money or jewelry. There was paper, and power. There was my updated will from 6 months ago, when I noticed that the Sunday visits were becoming rare, and the questions about when I would hand over the presidency were becoming frequent. But it was not just the will, there was also the power of attorney. I never revoked the preferred shares that gave me majority control of the trucking company, and above all, a folder. Yes, a folder, because a father who is a father knows his children, but a businessman who is a businessman audits even his own shadow. In that folder there were receipts for the embezzlement of funds that Robert Jr. did at the Southern branch to pay his mistress. There were promissory notes to loan sharks that Mike signed in the company's name. There were bank statements from Eddie's business trips, which were actually yacht parties in Miami. And Charlie, poor Charlie. There was proof of his incompetence, unread, signed contracts that almost drove us to bankruptcy in 2019, which I had to cancel behind the scenes without him knowing, to avoid humiliating the poor boy. I pressed the folder against my chest. My heart was beating fast, but not out of fear. It was adrenaline. The same adrenaline I felt when closing $1 million contract. They thought locking me up would let them take control. They did not know that by taking me out of the house, they were removing my emotional ties. In this house, I was Dad, and dads forgive. Outside of this house, I would just be Robert, the majority shareholder, and the majority shareholder does not forgive losses. I checked the clock, 20 minutes left. I went to the bathroom and washed my face. I applied my dark red lipstick, the same shade I used at the grand opening of our headquarters. I arranged my white hair into a tight bun. I put my reading glasses on the gold chain around my neck. I took the suitcase in one hand and my purse with the black folder in the other. The purse was heavy, not because of the weight of the papers, but because of the weight of the decision I had just made. I was going to get into that car. I was going to that facility. I would let them think they had won, because the element of surprise is the most dangerous weapon in war. And they had just declared war on the only person who knew where all the bodies were buried. I walked down the stair, the sound of my low heels echoing on the wood, announcing my arrival. They were in the living room whispering. They went quiet when they saw me. Robert Jr. looked at my small suitcase and smiled, a smile of relief mixed with contempt. "Very well, Dad. Reasonable as always." He tried to take my purse. "Let me carry that." I pulled it back with a quick, sharp movement. "Do not touch my purse, Robert." My voice came out low but sharp as a razor. "You can carry the suitcase. The purse stays with me. They are my personal documents. Old man stuff." He withdrew his hand awkwardly. Sure, let's go. The driver is getting impatient." We walked out to the porch. The afternoon sun was beautiful. golden over the bougainvillea garden I maintained with such care. I looked at the flowers one last time. They would probably be dead in a month without my watering, just like their inheritance would be dead before it reached their hands. A black Suburban with tinted windows was parked in the gate. A man in a white uniform stepped out to open the back door. It looked like a luxury hearse, ready to transport the corpse of my freedom. My sons stayed on the porch. None of them walked down to the car with me. They just stood there, lined up like four vultures on a power line, waiting for the carrion. Charlie still had the decency to look sad, but not enough to come down and stop me. Before getting into the car, I paused. I turned toward them. The wind slightly ruffled my hair, but I did not move. I fixed my gaze on each of them. Robert Jr., the empty one. Charlie, the weak one. Mike, the gambler. Eddie, the spoiled one. "You forgot one thing," I said loudly enough for them to hear from the porch. "What, Dad, did you forget a medicine?" Eddie asked, already spinning his car key on his finger. I did not answer. I just smiled. A half smile that made Robert Jr. frown. "You forgot that I was the one who taught you how to walk, and whoever teaches someone to walk also knows when to pull the rug." I got into the car and slammed the door shut. The driver looked at me in the rearview mirror with that look of pity reserved for discarded old people. "To the St. Helena Gardens facility, sir?" he asked. I settled the purse on my lap, feeling the texture of the leather folder where my power resided. "Yes, son," I said, "to the facility." I looked out the window as the car drove away and saw my sons walk into the house, patting each other on the back. Let the boys play at ruling the world for a few days. The car accelerated, leaving behind 60 years of life and 4 strangers I once called my sons. They gave me 1 hour to pack, thinking they were ending my story. They did not know that this was only the first paragraph of a new chapter. And in that chapter, the pen was in my hand. I rested my head on the cold leather seat and closed my eyes, but not to sleep. My mind was running at 1,000 miles an hour. The first thing I would do upon arriving at that facility would be to ask for a phone. If they thought isolation would be enough to stop Robert of RSG trucking, they were very wrong. The highway blurred past outside. The silence in the car was absolute. But inside me, the noise was that of an engine starting. The old man was leaving. Who would return? They had no idea. Justice is slow, they say, but in my case it would arrive in a 40-ton truck without brakes. The wrought iron gate of St. Helena Gardens closed behind me with a dull, heavy, definitive sound. The sound reminded me of a shipping container door sealing at the port, locking the cargo in for a long journey. Only this time, the cargo was me. The black SUV maneuvered through the paved driveway, gliding smoothly up to the reception area, which looked more like the lobby of a 5-star hotel. Crystal chandeliers, Persian rugs, velvet armchairs, everything beautiful, everything expensive, everything paid for with the money I had sweated to earn, and that my sons were now spending to get rid of me. Robert Jr. had said it was paradise. He forgot that even paradise has bars and that a pretty cage does not give wings to someone born to fly. The driver, a quiet young man who followed orders without asking, opened the door for me. I stepped out slowly, feeling the cold air conditioning of the facility hit my warm skin. My purse was firmly tucked under my arm, pressed against my ribs. The driver left the small suitcase at the entrance. "Mr. Robert, what a pleasure to welcome you." A tall woman in a flawless beige suit, with a smile that did not reach her eyes, came to meet me. "I am Dr. Clare, director of the unit. Your sons spoke wonderfully of you." They said I was senile. That is what they said, I thought. But I kept my face serene, smiling that little grandpa smile of someone who just wants to do crossword puzzles. The perfect disguise. "Very kind of you, my dear," I replied, thickening my voice a bit to seem more fragile. "The place is very impressive. Let's get you registered and take you to your quarters. You will love our routine. We have music therapy on Tuesdays, water aerobics." While she spoke, my eyes scanned the surroundings. I was not looking at the beauty of the decor. I was looking for emergency exits, security cameras, staff flow, a habit formed by spending a lifetime worrying about logistics and cargo theft. I spotted 2 cameras in the reception area, one in the main hallway. The receptionist's desk had a computer and a landline phone. There was a discreet security guard near the elevator. "I must collect your belongings for inventory, dear," Dr. Clare said, reaching her hand toward my purse. "It is house policy for your safety." I felt a shiver run down my spine. If she got her hands on the black folder, the game would be over before it began. If they saw the folder, they would call Robert Jr. immediately. "Oh, my dear," I squeezed the purse tighter, putting on a helpless face. "In this purse I only have my Bible, my rosary, and photos of my late husband. You know how it is. Widower things, no jewelry or money. My sons took everything." The woman hesitated. She looked at my wrinkled face, the glasses hanging from the chain, the harmless way I looked at her. She saw old Mr. Robert, not the president of RSG Trucking. Her prejudice was my first victory. "All right," she gave in with a condescending sigh. "But if there are any sharp objects or medications, you must give them to me." "Only the word of God, my dear, and that cuts. But it is a sin," I replied, using language I knew would work. She smiled uncomfortably and guided me to the elevator. Room 304 was luxurious. I had to admit it. A balcony overlooking the garden, a king-size bed, an adapted bathroom with chrome grab bars. But the first thing I noticed was not the comfort. It was the absence. There was no phone in the room. "And what if I want to speak with my family?" I asked as a nurse unpacked my suitcase, arranging my 3 changes of clothes as if they were prison uniforms. "We have scheduled times for calls, Mr. Robert." The nurse, whose name read Nurse Sally, spoke to me as if I were 100 years old. "Your sons left strict instructions. They said you get very agitated on the phone. Confused. They requested a digital detox period for your adjustment. Maybe in a week." A week. In a week, Robert Jr. and Mike would have time to sign contracts, sell assets, and maybe even try to amend the company's bylaws. They were smart. They had cut my communication. No phone, no internet. I was just an isolated old man in an ivory tower. I sat in the armchair near the window when I was left alone. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange, the same color as the trucks in our fleet. I opened my purse and looked for the leather folder. It was there, safe. But what good was having ammunition if I did not have a trigger? I needed a phone or a computer. Night fell, and the silence in the facility was disturbing. It was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of sedation. At dinner, they took me to the cafeteria. Pretty chandeliers, unsalted food. I looked around. There were ladies and gentlemen, people who, judging by their clothes, came from wealthy families. But their eyes were empty. Many drooled slightly from the corners of their mouths, drugged so they would not cause trouble. "Here you go, dear, to help you sleep well." Nurse Sally placed a small cup with 2 colorful pills next to my bowl of soup. "What is this?" I asked her. "Vitamins and a relaxant. The doctor prescribed it." I took the little cup. I looked at the pills. I recognized that small blue one. It was a heavy sedative, a lion tamer as the truck drivers called it. If I took that, my mind would be clouded. I would lose the only advantage I had, my clarity. I put on my best linen outfit, combed my white hair, and applied my lipstick. If I was going to war, I was going in uniform. I went down to the garden as soon as they unlocked the rooms at 7 in the morning. The air was crisp. I walked along the stone paths, pretending to admire the orchids, but my eyes were searching for the service area. I found it in the back, hidden behind a hibiscus hedge. There was movement. A white Nissan truck was unloading boxes of supplies. The driver, a stocky man in his 50s with a towel on his shoulder and a backwards cap, was checking a clipboard. I approached slowly. The man was distracted by his phone. The irony, he had what I needed most, and he did not even appreciate it. I stopped near the hedge. The truck driver cursed under his breath when a box dropped. What the hell is wrong with this delivery slip? He grunted, wiping sweat from his forehead. Is it a billing error, or is it missing a delivery confirmation? I asked in a firm voice. The man jumped and looked at me. He saw a 74-year-old man standing in the middle of the bushes. Good morning, sir, he said somewhat awkwardly. Just some paperwork issues here. Delivery stuff. If the manifest doesn't match the load, do not sign the receipt, I said, stepping closer. Rule number 1. If you sign it, the loss is on you. He looked at me curiously, narrowing his eyes. That was not the speech of a nursing home, Grandpa. It was the speech of the highway. You know about this stuff, huh? Son, I have carried this country on my back since before you were born. I am Robert, of RSG Trucking. The man's eyes widened like saucers. He took off his cap in an automatic, almost instinctive gesture of respect. In the trucking world, RSG Trucking was a legend. Prompt payments, fair freight rates, respect for the drivers. Mr. Robert? The king of the road? He seemed unable to believe it. My father worked for you in the 90s. The Iron Mule. Do you remember? I smiled, a true smile for the first time in 24 hours. I remember. It was a blue rig. Your father was Tommy from Chicago. That is right. My name is Clem. He smiled, showing a gold tooth. But what are you doing here, sir? I heard you were still running everything at the office. I'm taking a forced vacation, Clem, I said, lowering my voice and looking around. My sons think I'm too old. They locked me up in here and took my phone. Clem's expression changed. The respect turned into indignation. The working class understands injustice better than anyone, and drivers hate betrayal. They took your phone, sir? That is absolute garbage. Mr. Sam would roll over in his grave. Clem, I need a favor. I got straight to the point. There was no time to lose. I do not need money or a rescue. I need a line. I need to make one call. He looked at the guard at the booth, then at me. Without hesitation, he reached into the pocket of his worn jeans and pulled out a cell phone with a cracked screen. It has minutes, Mr. Robert. You can use it. I will go distract the inspector. Here. I took the device with trembling hands. This piece of cheap plastic and glass was worth more than all the gold I had left in the safe at home. I dialed the number from memory. It was not my home number or the company number. It was Mr. Adams's personal number. My personal lawyer for 30 years. The only one Robert Jr. could not buy because Adams had principles and because I paid triple. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Hello, Mr. Adams' sleepy voice answered. Adams, it is me. Do not say my name. Just listen. Robert, my God, where are you? Robert Jr. called me saying you had fallen ill, that you were isolated in a facility. I was preparing an injunction, but they have a medical report. Forget the money for now, Adams. The report is fake, but we will demolish that later. My voice took on the authoritative tone that used to make the walls of the boardrooms shake. They think they have the company because they have my chair, but they forgot who holds the master banking passwords. What do you want me to do? Activate the emergency rupture protocol, now. I heard the silence on the other end of the line. The emergency rupture protocol was an extreme security measure we created 10 years ago for cases of kidnapping or coercion. It locked down all holding accounts, froze wire transfers, and put all company assets into an immediate forensic audit status. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out, not a single cent. Robert, that is going to paralyze the fleet, 'cause absolute chaos. The boys won't even be able to pay for next week's diesel. Exactly, Adams. I looked at the well-kept garden of the facility, imagining the look on Robert Jr.'s face when the corporate card was declined at his fancy restaurant. They want to play businessmen. Well, they are going to learn the first lesson. Without the treasury, the engine stalls. And you are safe? I'm at the distribution center, Adams, I joked, looking at Clem, who was watching the entrance. I have my contacts. Lock everything down and prepare the paperwork for the takeover. I want an audit on every invoice Mike has issued in the past 5 years. Understood. Consider it done. In 10 minutes, the Empire stops. I hung up and deleted the call log. I handed the phone back to Clem. Thank you, son. You have no idea what you just did. I know, Mr. Robert. I am helping the boss put the house in order. He winked. I come here every Monday and Thursday. If you need anything, just play it cool and tell the highway buddy. Robert didn't retire. He just stopped to get gas. I returned to the main garden with my heart beating in a steady, strong rhythm. I walked over to a wooden bench beneath a leafy tree. I opened my purse, took out my rosary, and began to pray like a harmless, sweet old man. As I passed the wooden beads between my fingers, I started to imagine what was happening out there. Right at this moment, Robert Jr. should be arriving at the office, sitting in my leather chair, putting his feet up on my mahogany desk. He should be calling the secretary, asking for an espresso and feeling like the king of the world. Soon his phone would ring. It would be the bank director. Mr. Robert, we have a problem. The accounts are frozen. All of them. Then Charlie would call from the purchasing department. Robert Jr., the diesel suppliers didn't receive the advance payment. They cut the supply. And Eddie. Oh, Eddie. He would call from the imported car dealership where he was probably trying to buy a new car with the bonus he thought he was getting. The card is blocked, bro. The payment didn't go through. A thin smile formed on my lips. They had given me 1 hour to leave the house. It took me less than 5 minutes to pull the rug out from under them. I looked at my hands. They were wrinkled hands with age spots and prominent veins. Hands that had washed clothes in cement tubs, that had changed truck tires in the rain, that had signed multi-million-dollar contracts. They looked at these hands and saw weakness. They saw the past. What they did not understand is that the past is the foundation. And when you mess with the foundation of a building without knowing what you are doing, the roof collapses on your head. Dr. Clare appeared at the glass door leading to the garden, waving at me. Mr. Robert, it is time for occupational therapy. We are going to do fabric painting today. I got up slowly, leaning on the bench. I put away the rosary. I'm coming, my dear, I shouted back with a shaky voice. I walked toward her, as docile as a lamb. But inside, I was a wolf that had just locked the foxes inside the henhouse and thrown away the key. They wanted me institutionalized. Well, now I was safe in here, with a bed, food, and clean clothes. Out there, they were going to face true hell, and best of all, without Dad around to clean up the mess. I entered the art room, picked up a brush, and looked at the blank canvas. The teacher, an energetic young woman, asked, "What are you going to paint today, Mr. Robert? A landscape? Flowers?" I dipped the brush in the red paint. A bright red, the color of an alert, the color of a loss, the color of blood. "No, my dear," I replied, starting to stroke the canvas. "Today I am going to paint a storm, and the first thunderclap is about to strike my son's phones." On Thursday delivery day, I went to meet Clem out back. This time, I did not need to hide as much. The facility's security was much more relaxed around me. After all, I was just the nice grandpa who painted little pictures. Clem was unloading boxes of adult diapers. He looked tense. "Mr. Robert," he whispered, leaning against the fence. "Things are getting crazy out there." "Tell me everything, Clem." "The Chicago branch fleet stopped early this morning. No diesel. The partner station cut their credit. The drivers are furious, sir. They found out management hadn't paid their food allowances. People are talking about a general strike on Monday." "Excellent," I replied dryly. "And my sons?" "Robert Jr. fired your old secretary Martha because she didn't know where the master password notebook was." "Charlie?" "Well, they say Charlie showed up at the company with a black eye today. It seems debt collectors don't appreciate delays." I felt a pang of pity for Charlie. He was always the weakest one, the one who just followed the others. But pity does not pay the bills, and he signed my commitment papers right alongside his brothers. You reap what you sow. Clem, pay attention. I took a folded piece of paper out of my shirt pocket. This is the number for the Truck Drivers Union President Big Mac. He is my buddy. Call him. Tell him the patriarch sent a message. What is the message, Mr. Robert? Tell him the current management is illegitimate. And if the strike breaks out, they should park the trucks in front of Robert Jr.'s house in Oakwood Estates. Not at the company, in front of his house. I want to see the fancy neighborhood waking up to 50 tractor trailers honking at 5 in the morning. Clem let out a muffled laugh, shaking his head in admiration. You are the devil, Mr. Robert. I am just a father educating his children, Clem. Sometimes the spanking has to be public. The weekend at the facility was tense. I received no visits, but I felt the electricity in the air. Dr. Clare was giving me side eyes, probably because the monthly payment check must have bounced. I ate my soup and prayed my rosary, the very image of serenity. But inside, I was the wolf that had just locked the foxes in the henhouse and thrown away the key. But Monday brought the confrontation I was waiting for. I was in my room when the door opened without a knock. It was not the nurses. It was the four of them. Robert Jr., Charlie wearing dark sunglasses to hide his black eye, Mike, and Eddie. And this time, there was no mask of the good son. They walked in like a gang. Eddie locked the door and leaned against it. The room seemed too small for so much wounded testosterone and cheap rage. "The theater is over, Robert," Robert Jr. hissed. He did not even call me Dad. "We know it was you." I kept sitting in my armchair, knitting a scarf that would never be finished. "Me? What did I do?" "Adams," Mike said, his voice trembling with rage. "The bank's lawyer let it slip. He said an order for a forensic audit was presented by Mr. Adams on behalf of the majority shareholder. You blocked everything." "Ah, Adams." I stopped knitting and rested the needles on my lap. "He is a good man, always very efficient." "Do you have any idea what you did?" Eddie yelled from the door. "There are drivers having a barbecue on my sidewalk. The police can't remove them because it's a peaceful union protest. My wife took the kids and left the house. You destroyed my life." "You gave me 1 hour. Remember?" I spoke softly, but my voice filled the room. I stood up slowly. I did not need support. I stood up straight in front of them. The senile old man had gone for a walk. The man standing here was the owner of the fleet. 1 hour to pack. You thought you could toss me out like an old tire and keep the truck rolling. You are going to unlock the accounts right now. Robert Jr. took a threatening step forward. Or we will file for full guardianship. We will prove you are crazy, that you are wasting the estate. I let out a short laugh. Wasting? Robert Jr., you embezzled $200,000 from the Southern Branch to buy a condo in the Bahamas for your little friend. I watched the color drain from his face. And you, Mike, the fraudulent maintenance invoices. We swapped out the exact same Cummins engine 4 times in the same month. Did you think I didn't read the reports? The silence that fell over the room was heavy, suffocating. Charlie lowered his head. Eddie stopped spinning the car key on his finger. They realized this was not just a banking lockdown. I knew everything. "The folder," Mike whispered, "the black folder that disappeared from the safe. It is in a very secure location," I confirmed, walking over to the window and looking out at the garden. "And there are copies, many copies. And if something happens to me, let's say I have an accident here at the facility, or if my health deteriorates mysteriously, that folder goes straight to the IRS and the FBI." I turned back to them. They looked like scared little kids who had broken Mom's favorite vase, except the vase was a 40-year-old company, and Mom was not going to pat them on the head. "What do you want?" Charlie asked, his voice strangled. "We will get you out of here. We will give you back the presidency. Just stop this, please. The loan shark said he is going to break my legs tomorrow." I looked at Charlie. The black eye under the dark glasses was real. His pain was real. But the lesson was not finished yet. If I yielded now, they would go right back to being the same parasites in 6 months. "No," I replied firmly. "I like it here. The food is bland. But the company is better than yours. I am staying." "Staying?" Robert Jr. nearly choked. "But what about the company? The lockdown?" "The company stays paralyzed until you learn the value of every single dollar I sweated to earn." I walked up to Robert Jr. and adjusted his shirt collar in a paternal gesture that made him flinch. You wanted to play owner. Then solve it. Negotiate with the union with no money. Handle the creditors with no collateral. Do magic. Dad, this is madness. The company will go bankrupt in a week, Mike whined. If it goes bankrupt, it goes bankrupt. I built it from zero once. I will rebuild it. I have the knowledge. You only have the greed. I returned to my armchair and picked up my knitting. Now get out. It is time for my soap opera. And tell Dr. Clare that your payment will be late this month. They stood frozen for a moment, stunned, unable to process the reversal of power. I, the prisoner, held the key to their cells. They, the jailers, were trapped in the freedom they wanted so badly. One by one, they walked out of the room. The sound of their footsteps in the hallway was the sound of defeat. I was alone again. The room was silent. But my mind was loud. I had pushed the nuclear button. The company was bleeding. My sons were in real danger. Charlie could actually get hurt. I felt a tug in my heart. It was the paternal instinct screaming at me to save him, to sign the check, to fix everything the way I always had. But I swallowed my tears. If I saved them now, I would lose them forever. They had to hit rock bottom to discover that the floor they walked on was made of my sacrifice. I looked at the cell phone Clem had gotten me earlier, the one I hid under the mattress. Yes, he had gotten me an old device for emergencies. It was time to prepare the final act. The destruction was done. Now I had to plan the reconstruction. But this time, the foundation would not just be made of concrete and steel. It would be made of respect. And respect, unfortunately, is a commodity that costs dearly. I grabbed the cell phone and sent a short text to Mr. Adams. Let them bleed 2 more days, then prepare the boardroom. The old man returns, but not alone. I put the phone away and looked at my knitting. I had dropped a stitch. I undid it and started over. In life, just like in knitting, sometimes you have to unravel everything to fix what is not right. And my sons were a tangle of knots that would take a lot of work to untangle. 2 days was the exact amount of time needed for my son's cardboard empire to collapse under the acid rain of reality. I watched it all unfold on the 40-inch television in the facility's common room, sitting in my favorite armchair while the other residents fell asleep to the sound of cooking shows. But I was not watching cake recipes. I was watching the local news. The image on the screen was chaotic, but to me it sounded like a symphony conducted remotely. Truck drivers' strike paralyzes entrance to luxury Oakwood estates, read the headline in bright red letters. The camera showed an endless line of tractor trailers, rigs and double trailers parked, blocking the main gate where Robert Jr. lived. The sound of the horns was deafening, even through the TV. I saw a reporter interviewing Big Mac, my union buddy, who spoke with the eloquence of someone who has both the right and the calluses to prove it. "We are not moving from here until management pays what it owes," Big Mac yelled into the microphone. "And we want to talk to Grandpa Robert. This new management doesn't even honor the pants they wear." I smiled, taking a sip of warm herbal tea. It was music to my ears. But the smile died when the camera cut to shaky cell phone footage, showing Charlie being escorted by security guards out of the company headquarters, with a group of creditors screaming at the door. He looked as if he had aged 10 years. The black eye was worse, swollen, almost completely shutting his vision on the left side. My father's heart tightened. It was a physical pain, a sharp stab that no medication in this facility could cure. Seeing a child suffer, even if it is through their own fault, goes against nature. I wanted to call Mr. Adams right then and there and tell him to stop everything. "Enough," I would say. "Pay the debts, release the money." But my hand remained firmly on the armrest. If I saved them now, I would condemn them to be spoiled children forever. Steel only hardens in the fire, and they needed to burn a little longer to become men. "Mr. Robert!" Dr. Clare's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. I turned slowly. The director's posture had changed. The polite arrogance of someone dealing with a disposable old man had vanished. In its place was nervous anxiety. She was clutching a clipboard to her chest like a shield. "Yes, my dear," I replied, maintaining my serene persona. "There has been a small administrative problem with your prepaid monthly payment. The check your son, Robert Jr., left? Well, the bank returned it for insufficient funds." She swallowed hard. "We tried contacting the other responsible parties, but no one is answering." The symphony of the bounced checks. Robert Jr., who always bragged about having unlimited credit, could not even pay for the luxury nursing home where he locked up his father. "Oh, what a shame, Dr. Clare." I made a face of disapproval. "My boys must be very distracted. You know how the heads of young people are today, full of air. You understand, we cannot maintain your boarding without a guarantee." She tried to be firm, but her eyes kept darting to the TV, where the footage of the company's chaos was playing on a loop. She must have put two and two together by now. The senile old man in the room was the owner of that hurricane on the news. "Do not worry, my dear." I stood up, smoothed my shirt, and took off my reading glasses. "My stay here has ended. My driver's coming for me in 10 minutes. "But you cannot leave, sir. The medical report, the involuntary admission." I stepped closer to her, invading her personal space. I did not need to stand on my tiptoes to seem taller. My presence filled the room. "The report is fake, Dr. Clare, and you know it. You accepted my institutionalization without an exam, solely on the word of 4 men who paid very handsome emergency fees." I saw the panic rise in her eyes. "My lawyer, Mr. Adams, is coming with an actuary and an independent medical team for an evaluation. If I were you, I would start drafting apologies to the medical board." She turned pale, taking 2 steps back. "Sir, I did not know. They said it was for your safety." And it was. I smiled. A cold smile. It was the safest place in the world for me to plan my revenge. "Now, if you will excuse me, I have a company to save." I left Dr. Clare stammering in the hallway and went back to the room for my suitcase. I did not take everything. I left the facility's clothes and the medications I never took. I only took my purse with the folder, the small leather suitcase, and my pride, which now weighed twice as much. When I went downstairs, Mr. Adams was in the reception area. He was not alone. There were 2 plainclothes police officers and a court clerk. Dr. Clare was signing papers with trembling hands, sweating cold in the air conditioning. "Robert!" Mr. Adams came over to hug me. The smell of old cologne and tobacco was the smell of freedom. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" "The only injury here will be to my son's egos, Adams." I adjusted my hair. "The car's outside. It is Clem. He insisted on driving his own truck. He said the boss does not get into an Uber." I let out a good laugh. "Free." I walked out the front door of the facility without looking back. The afternoon sun hit my face, and I took a deep breath of the city air. It tasted like victory. On the street, parked illegally and taking up 3 spaces, was Clem's truck, a red Kenworth, polished and shining like a jewel. He was standing at the door, smiling from ear to ear. "The car has arrived, Mr. Robert," he shouted. I climbed into the cab with his help. My knees complained, but the feeling of being up high, of seeing the world from above, was worth any pain. "To the central office, Clem. Let's see what is left of my desk." The drive to RSG Trucking was fast. Clem cut through the traffic with the skill of someone who knows every pothole in the asphalt. When we arrived at the company yard, the scene was like a war zone. There were picket signs, burned tires on the sidewalk, the smell of burning rubber coming through the windows, and a lot of people shouting. But when the red truck appeared at the corner, and Clem honked the horn in a specific rhythm, 3 short, 2 long, the old code announcing the arrival of the boss, silence spread like a wave. I stepped down. Mr. Adams parked his car right behind us. Big Mac, the union leader, came running. A 6'3" man with a gray beard had tears in his eyes. "Mr. Robert, thank God you are alive. They were saying you were drooling in a nursing home." "Weeds do not die easily, Mac." I squeezed his calloused hand. "Tell everyone to put out the fires and clear the gates. The boss is coming out today." Do you guarantee it, sir? I'm Robert Mack. Has my word ever bounced? He shook his head, took off his cap out of respect, and turned to the crowd. Clear everything out, boys. The boss has returned. Grandpa, Robert is back. The shout of celebration that exploded in the yard made the ground shake. Office employees appeared at the windows, clapping. I felt a strong lump in my throat, but I swallowed it. It was not the time to cry, it was time to reclaim. I entered the administrative building. The reception guard, Joel, almost saluted me like a soldier. The private elevator was locked, but I had the master key in my purse. I went straight up to the 10th floor, the penthouse where the president's office was located. The hallway was silent, a brutal contrast to the noise outside. The new secretary, a young woman I did not know, tried to stop me. You cannot go in there, sir. They are in a crisis meeting. My dear, I am the crisis. I pushed open the double mahogany doors and walked in. The scene I found in the boardroom was pathetic. The oval table that had seen signatures on contracts that changed the country's logistics sector was covered in fast food wrappers, energy drink cans, and crumpled papers. The air was stale, smelling of sweat and fear. My 4 sons were there. Robert Jr. was sitting in my chair at the head of the table, but he looked small in it. His tie was undone, his shirt stained with coffee. Mike was pacing back and forth, biting whatever was left of his nails. Eddie was sprawled on a sofa in the corner, his head in his hands. And Charlie? Charlie was sitting near the window, holding an ice pack against his face. When the door slammed shut behind me, they jumped. The silence that settled in was absolute. They looked at me as if they were seeing a ghost in a linen suit with a leather purse in hand. Dad, Robert Jr. whispered. His voice broke. I walked slowly toward the table. The sound of my heels on the wooden floor was the only noise. I stopped at the other end, facing Robert Jr. I placed my purse on the table. The sound of the metal clasp echoed like a gunshot. Get out of my chair, Robert! He blinked, stunned. Dad, how did you get out? The doctor... Dr. Clare is going to answer for arbitrary kidnapping. And you... I looked at each of them. You are lucky that I am a father before I am a businessman. Because if I were just the majority shareholder, you would be leaving here in handcuffs. You froze everything! Mike exploded in a mix of tears and rage. You bankrupted the company. We were going to lose everything today. The loan sharks are after Charlie. I bankrupted the company. My voice went up an octave, razor sharp. Who signed lease agreements with abusive interest rates to buy trucks that do not even exist? Mike, who? I opened my purse, took out the black folder, the famous folder, and tossed it onto the table. It slid across the polished mahogany and stopped right in front of Robert Jr. Open it, I ordered. No one moved. Open it, I yelled, slamming my hand on the table with a force that made the soda cans rattle. Robert Jr. opened the folder with trembling hands. The first page was a copy of an international wire transfer. The Bahamas, Robert? I asked softly. Consulting fees? Did you think I would not see the monthly embezzlement of $5,000, disguised as IT consulting? Me, the one who checks every gallon of diesel from lot A to B 174? He went as white as paper. Dad, can I explain? It was an investment. Shut up, I turned to Eddie. And you, my little playboy. Fake spare parts invoices issued by a shell company registered in your girlfriend's name. $20,000 in just a few months, while our drivers slept on the side of the road because you cut the lodging budget. Eddie shrank into the sofa, crying softly. Mike. I pointed at him without even looking him in the eyes. Gambling debts paid with cash under the maintenance table. You put the lives of our drivers at risk, Mike. Reconditioned parts passed off as brand new. If a truck had lost its brakes and killed someone, their blood would have been on your hands. Mike collapsed into a chair, covering his face. I approached Charlie. He did not look at me. His black eye throbbed. He was the only one who seemed genuinely ashamed. And you, Charlie, the weak one, you signed for debts that were not yours to try to impress these 3 vultures. And now who pays? The company. I'm sorry, Dad. It is just me. I did not know how to say no. Well, you are going to learn. Because starting today, the word no will be the thing you hear the most. I returned to the end of the table. Robert Jr. was still sitting there, paralyzed. I said, "Get out of my chair." He stood up, stumbling, almost falling over. The posture of that visionary had disappeared. All that was left was a mediocre man who had tried to wear shoes that were much too big for him. I sat down. The leather of the chair creaked, molding to my back like an old hug. I placed my elbows on the table, intertwined my fingers, and looked at the four defeated men in front of me. "Here's the situation," I began, with the calm voice of someone dictating a will. "Mr. Adams has already unlocked the operating accounts. Salaries are being paid right now. Critical suppliers will receive payment before the end of the day. The strike is over." They sighed with relief, but I continued, and the air grew heavy again. "Your easy lives ended with the strike." "What are you going to do?" Robert Jr. asked, trying to recover a shred of dignity. "Fire us? We are statutory partners." "No, I am not going to fire you. That would be too easy. You would just go home, live off dividends, and continue being useless." I smiled, but there was no joy on my face. "You're going to actually work." I took 4 envelopes out of my purse and tossed them on the table. "Robert Jr., you are going to the North Branch. You will be the yard manager. You are going to learn how to check cargo in 104-degree heat with no air conditioning and no secretary." "You're crazy. I am the commercial director." "You were the commercial director. Now you are employee number 4016. If you do not want it, you can leave. But if you leave, I'm handing this folder over to the IRS tomorrow morning. You decide. Honest work or prison." He fell quiet, swallowing his pride. "Mike, you are going to the shop. You will be a mechanic's assistant. You are going to wash parts with solvent until your hands are as calloused as your father's. And your salary will be garnished to pay off the hole you created. Eddie, you are taking to the road. You will be a delivery assistant. You are going to carry boxes on your back, climb stairs, and listen to customer complaints. You are going to learn the value of sweat. And Charlie," I looked at him, "you are staying right here in the dead archives. You are going to organize 40 years of documents all by yourself, and you will have plenty of times to reflect on how to say no the next time someone asks you to do something stupid." The silence in the room was absolute. They looked at each other in shock, in disbelief. They expected screaming, maybe even a beating, perhaps expulsion. But work, hard work, was the worst punishment for those born with silver spoons in their mouths. "You have 1 hour," I said, repeating the words they used against me last Sunday. I looked at the wall clock. 1 hour to empty your things out of these fancy offices, return the corporate cards and the keys to the company cars, and report to your new posts. "Dad? The cars! My car!" Eddie tried to argue. "The cars belong to the company. You will take the bus or the subway. I do not care." I picked up the desk phone, that heavy black device I had used since the 90s. "Now get out. I have a company to rebuild." They stood frozen for another second, processing the new reality. The hierarchy had been restored. The natural order of things had returned to its axis. The patriarch was not just a decorative figure. I was the foundation, the walls, and the roof of this place. And when the house threatens to fall, it is the foundation that holds everything up. One by one, they took the envelopes and walked out, heads bowed. Robert Jr. was the last one. He stopped at the door. He looked at me and looked at the chair he had briefly occupied. "You have no heart," he said bitterly. "I do have one, son," I replied, already dialing the accounting department's number. "I have a heart big enough to have raised the 4 of you, and strong enough to fix the disaster you made. One day, when your hands are dirty with grease and your conscience is clean, you will thank me." He walked out and slammed the door shut. I was alone in the enormous room. The late afternoon sun poured through the window, turning the floating dust golden. I took a deep breath. I was exhausted. My 74 years weighed heavily on every bone in my body. But for the first time in months, I did not feel like a useless old man. I felt like Robert. The phone in my hand connected the call. Accounting, hello? The employee answered. Hello, it is Robert speaking. My voice sounded firm, clear, and powerful. Let's start the audit. I want a coffee on my desk in 5 minutes, and bring me the ledger books from 1998. The traffic flowed. The trucks rolled. Life continued. My sons thought they could stop time by locking me in a facility. But they forgot that time is my friend. It gave me patience. It gave me wisdom. And above all, it taught me that whoever controls the freight controls the destiny. And the freight has always been mine. The calendar on my office wall marked 6 months since the day I returned to the president's chair. 6 months since Clem's red truck parked in the yard, and I stepped out to put out the fire my own sons had started. The boardroom, once filled with pizza boxes and the smell of fear, now smelled of furniture wax and fresh coffee. But the biggest change was not in the furniture or the cleanliness. It was in the silence. It was not the empty silence of when I was institutionalized, but the productive silence of people working hard. I got up and walked to the window overlooking the maneuvering yard. Below, the operation ran like clockwork. The trucks came and went, loaded with hope and merchandise. There were no more strikes, no more shouting, no more court clerks at the door. The monstrous debt they had created was being paid off, penny by penny, with the profits of honest sweat. I did not perform miracles. I just cut the luxury and went back to basics. I sold the imported executive cars, canceled the unlimited corporate cards, and personally renegotiated with every supplier, looking them in the eyes and giving them my word as a guarantee. And Robert's word, thank God, was still worth more than gold in the market. The door to my office opened. They did not burst in running without knocking like they used to. I heard 2 sharp, respectful knocks. Come in, I authorized, returning to my desk. They walked in single file, my 4 boys, but a quick glance might make you not recognize them. The Italian designer clothes had disappeared. The ostrich leather shoes had given way to steel-toe work boots. Robert Jr. was the first. He was coming from the North Branch for the monthly alignment meeting. His skin, formerly office pale, was tanned. A dirty tan of someone who spends the day in the yard checking cargo manifests under the midday sun. He did not wear a suit. He wore the gray company uniform with the name Robert embroidered on the pocket, just like any other employee. Mike came right behind him. His hands, Mike's hands, the nails bitten down from anxiety were gone. Now his hands were thick, calloused, embedded with that black grease that sinks into the fingers and does not come out even with a wire brush. He carried a faint smell of diesel and shop rags. Eddie, my youngest, seemed to have gained about 10 pounds, but not from whiskey and snacks. It was muscle mass. Carrying boxes and helping with moving jobs had broadened his shoulders. He limped slightly, the result of a box falling on his foot last week. But he did not complain, and Charlie carried a folder under his arm. He now wore prescription glasses from reading so much fine print in old contracts in the dead archives. His posture, always hunched, was much straighter. He seemed to have found, amidst the dust and old paper, the backbone he always lacked. Sit down. I pointed to the simple wooden chairs I had custom made to replace the swiveling leather armchairs. Too much comfort makes you sleepy, and no one is here to sleep. They sat down. There was no arrogance in their eyes. There was exhaustion, yes, but there was something new. Dignity. North Branch report, Mr. Robert, Robert Jr. said, placing a simple folder on the table. He did not call me Dad. During office hours, I was the president. We managed to reduce loading time by 10%. I discovered that the forklift drivers were taking an unnecessary route in the warehouse. I changed the layout. I took the folder and opened it. The numbers were there, clear with no creative accounting. And how did you discover that, Robert? I asked, testing him. Because I was out there on the forklift with them, he replied, looking me in the eyes. When you feel the heat radiating off the metal, you understand why the operation gets delayed. The former manager, the former manager, which was me, only saw the spreadsheet from inside the air conditioning. I nodded, closing the folder. A slight smile of approval, almost imperceptible, escaped my lips. Very well. And the shop, Mike? Mike cleared his throat. He looked proud in a strange way. We salvaged 3 engines that were headed for the scrapyard, sir. Duke taught me how to resurface the cylinder head instead of buying ridiculously expensive new parts. We saved $4,000 this month alone. I remembered the fake invoices he used to sign. Now he was excited about saving the company's money, not spending it. And you learned the difference between a flathead and a Phillips screwdriver? I learned that if you don't tighten the screw all the way, the engine leaks oil on the highway and the driver gets stranded. He lowered his head, humbled. I learned that the driver's safety depends on my dirty hands. I looked at Eddie. And the deliveries, Eddie? Is that client on the Upper East Side still complaining? No, sir. He shook his head. I went personally to deliver the furniture. I climbed 4 flights of stairs because the sofa wouldn't fit in the elevator. The lady of the house offered me coffee, and she thanked me in tears. She said she had never been treated so well by a moving company. Eddie, the playboy who only frequented VIP sections, was now drinking black coffee out of ceramic mugs in regular people's homes, and feeling fulfilled with a simple thank you. And you, Charlie, did you find more skeletons in the closet? Charlie adjusted his glasses and opened his folder. I found an insurance clause we were not using, Mr. Robert. We are entitled to a retroactive 5-year reimbursement for the fleet grounded during maintenance. I already put the file together and sent it to Mr. Adams. It should put about $20,000 into the treasury next week. $20,000. Charlie, the incompetent one, as his brothers called him, had just paid the month's payroll with his attention to detail. I leaned back in my chair. Silence returned to the room, but now it was a comfortable silence. I looked at these 4 men, and for the first time in years, I saw the sons Sam had dreamed of. They were not perfect. They still had personal debts to pay. They still lived in smaller rented apartments because they had lost their mansions. They still complained of backaches. But they were men, real men. Do you know why I called this meeting today? I asked. They looked at each other, apprehensive. The fear of the old man still existed. To fire us? Robert Jr. asked with a thin voice. I know the North Branch improved, but... I did not call you here to fire you. I cut him off. I called you here because today is Friday, and at RSG Trucking, Fridays are payday. I pulled 4 manila envelopes from the drawer. They were their pay stubs. Market rate salaries matching the roles they now held. Yard manager, mechanic's assistant, delivery assistant, archivist. No multi-million-dollar bonuses, just what was fair. I pushed the envelopes across the table. They took them as if they were the most precious things in the world. And they were. It was the first clean money they had earned in a long time. You can check them, I said. The deductions for the losses you caused have already been applied. There will not be much left, but there will be enough to pay rent and buy groceries. Robert Jr. held the envelope, and his eyes watered. Dad, he began, and this time I let him. You were right about everything. We thought the company was a cow that would never dry up. We didn't know the weight of the bucket. The bucket is heavy, son, I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. And whoever carries the bucket must have strong arms and a straight spine. You had spines twisted by vanity. I had to break them to straighten them out. I stood up and went to the office door, opening it. Now go. Your shift is over. But on Monday, I want everyone here on time. Robert Jr., you return north on the first truck. They stood up one by one. As they passed in front of me, there were no sappy hugs, no dramatic apologies. There were firm handshakes, handshakes of people closing a contract of mutual respect. When Charlie, the last one, was leaving, he stopped and looked at me. The black eye had healed months ago, but the lesson remained. Thank you, Dad, he whispered, for not giving up on us even when we deserved to be thrown out. Fathers do not give up, Charlie. fathers educate. Sometimes with a kiss, sometimes with a belt. You needed the belt of reality. I closed the door when they disappeared down the hallway. I returned to the window. I saw the four of them walking across the yard toward the bus stop. They were talking, laughing about something. Mike shoved Eddie's shoulder playfully. They were brothers again, not rival partners trying to tear each other down. I went down to the yard. I needed to feel the ground of my company. The sun was setting, painting the sky that orange color I loved, the color of the paint on our very first truck. I walked through the shop. The mechanics were washing their hands to go home. Duke, the maintenance chief, came to greet me. Mr. Robert, young Mike is really getting the hang of it, you know, he said, wiping his hands on a rag. The boy has a talent for grease. Today he identified a noise in the differential just by listening to the engine run. He takes after his father, Duke. Sam. I smiled, feeling my chest warm up. He takes after his father. It was the highest compliment Mike could receive. I kept walking toward the cafeteria. The cooks were cleaning everything. The smell of seasoned beans was still in the air. Mr. Robert, I saved you a piece of sweet bread, Mary shouted, a cook who had been with the company for 20 years. Thank you, Mary. I will grab it later. I sat on one of the long benches in the empty cafeteria. I looked around. This place was the heart of the company. Here, drivers, mechanics, and assistants all ate the same food. My sons for years had been disgusted by the thought of coming in here. They preferred expensive restaurants with the corporate card. In the last few months, they had eaten here every single day. They had listened to the drivers' stories, the hardships of the road, the time spent away from their families. They had learned that every truck rolling out of this gate carries the livelihood of an entire family. The lesson was not about money. It was about humanity. They needed to step down from the pedestal to see the people who were holding that pedestal up. I pulled the wooden rosary and Sam's photo from my purse, the same ones I took to the facility on that fateful day. I placed the photo on the Formica table. Do you see, you stubborn old man? I spoke softly to the picture. It was hard work. It almost cost me my health, but I think it is going to work out now. I remembered the day I was kicked out of my own home with 1 hour to pack. I remembered the feeling of helplessness, the fear of being forgotten in a nursing home. That pain had been the fuel. If they had not done that, maybe I would have kept covering up their mistakes until bankruptcy. Their betrayal had, ironically, been the salvation of the family. The cell phone in my pocket vibrated. It was a message from Clem. Boss, the vaccine shipment reached its destination. All refrigerated, all on time. The client sends their congratulations. Said RSG Trucking is the only one they trust. I replied, Good job, Clem. Get some rest. I put the phone away and took a deep breath. The air was cool. Night was falling softly over the city. I did not know how much time I had left. 74 years is not 74 days. My knees ached more with every rain. My eyesight grew tired faster reading reports. But I was no longer afraid of the future. I used to be afraid of dying and leaving an empire of sand to 4 spoiled boys, just so they could destroy it. Now I was building a foundation of stone. They were not ready to take back the presidency yet. Maybe it would take another year, maybe 5. But they were on the right path. They were learning that leadership is not inherited. It is earned. I got up from the bench, adjusted my suit, ran my hand through my impeccable white hair, and grabbed my purse. The same purse where I had carried the folder that toppled their arrogance. Now inside there was only the rosary, the photo, and my house keys. My house that I had won back through the courts, and where I returned every night alone, but in peace. I walked toward the exit. The night watchman opened the gate for me. Good night, Mr. Robert. Go with God. Good night, son. May God be with you too. I looked back one last time. The neon sign, RSG Trucking. It lit up at the top of the building, bright red against the dark sky. The S was flickering a bit. It needed maintenance. Tomorrow I would send Mike up there to fix it. He would complain about the height, but he would do it, and he would do it well. I got into my car. It was not a luxury car with a driver. It was my old sedan, which I drove myself. I started the engine and felt the vibration in my hands. Old hands, spotted hands, but firm hands. My sons thought they could force me into retirement. They thought my story ended at the door of that facility. They did not know that the best part of any book is always the ending. When all the loose threads are tied and you understand the reason behind every suffering. I shifted into first gear and pulled away slowly. The road was wide open in front of me, and as long as I had diesel in my veins and the pen in my hand, no one would decide my destiny for me. The patriarch was alive, and the fleet had never been in better hands. Wait, I messed up the timeline. I am no longer at the facility. I am in my office, free. Let me tell you the true ending of this story. 3 years passed since that day. 3 years since they gave me 1 hour to pack and thought they were locking me away. 3 years since I activated the rupture protocol and showed them who really held the power. The company not only survived, it flourished. Robert Jr. is now the director of operations, a real director, not just by title. He knows every route, every client, every driver by name, and the drivers respect him because he sweat right alongside them. Mike runs the maintenance department. He implemented a reconditioned parts program that saves thousands a year without compromising safety, because now he knows the difference. Eddie manages customer service, and he is good at it, because he learned that treating people well does not cost money, it costs humility. Charlie is the deputy administrative director. The archive he organized revealed so many missed opportunities that he is now an expert at finding money where others only see dust. And me, I'm still in my chair. I still sign the big contracts. I still drink my coffee at 7 in the morning. But now I know that when I am gone, and I will be gone someday, because that is life, the company will be in good hands, calloused hands, humble hands, hands that know the weight of the bucket. That hour they gave me to pack was the best hour of my life, because in that hour I packed something they didn't see. I packed the most important lesson a father can give. I didn't give them the fish. I didn't give them the fishing rod. I took away the boat and made them swim, and now they know how to fish. Today is Sunday, the exact same day of the week they gave me that hour to pack. But this Sunday is different. The smell of freshly made chili perfumes the house again. The exact same recipe. The exact same embroidered tablecloth from Texas on the table. But this time the plates are not waiting empty. I hear the sound of cars arriving, doors closing, voices in the garden, laughter, genuine laughter, not the nervous laughter of someone planning a betrayal. The door opens and they walk in, my 4 sons, but they are not alone. Robert Jr. brings his wife, Lauren, and my 2 grandkids. The kids run toward me yelling, "Grandpa!" and climb onto my knees. Lauren kisses my cheek and hands me a bouquet of bougainvillea flowers from her garden. "Thank you for inviting us, Mr. Robert," she says. She no longer calls me father-in-law with that forced tone. Now there is genuine respect in her voice. Mike comes in with his new girlfriend, a down-to-earth girl who works in the company's human resources department. Nothing like the models he used to bring around. This one has her feet on the ground and looks at him with love, not with self-interest. Charlie brings his wife and daughter. The little girl, my only granddaughter, runs over to show me her drawing from school. It is a red truck. "It is like the ones from Grandpa's company," she says proudly. And Eddie comes with his family. His wife, who had fled the house when the trucks blocked their street, came back. And she came back because Eddie changed. He is no longer the irresponsible playboy. He is a man who comes home at 6 in the evening and plays with his kids. They sit around the table. The same table where 3 years ago they told me I was senile. The same table where they pushed the commitment papers. But today there are no manila folders. There are cloth napkins, bowls of steaming chili, freshly baked cornbread, avocado, limes. "Let's say grace," I say. We hold hands around the table. A complete circle. A circle that broke, and that I had to repair with a heavy hand. Lord, I begin, thank you for this family. Thank you for giving me the strength to do what I had to do, not what was easy. Thank you for these men who have become my sons again. Amen. They all respond. We eat. Not intense silence, but with lively conversation. Robert Jr. tells us a story about how they solved a logistics problem in Chicago. Mike gets excited talking about an engine they rescued. Eddie talks about a lady who cried with gratitude over a delivery. And Charlie pulls a folder from his briefcase. Dad, he says nervously, I found something in the archive. The dining room goes quiet. Everyone looks at him. I found the letters Sam wrote you when he was on the road. There are about 100 letters. They are yellowed, but you can still read them. I thought you might want to have them. He hands me the folder. I open it with trembling hands. There is Sam's handwriting. My dearest Robert, today I made it to New Orleans. The rig held up nicely. My eyes fill with tears. They are the first tears I have shed in 3 years. But they are not tears of pain. They are tears of gratitude. Thank you, son, I whisper. You have no idea what this means? I do know, Dad, Charlie says. That is why I spent 2 weeks looking for them. Because you taught us that what is valuable must be taken care of. And these letters are valuable. Robert Jr. clears his throat. Dad, we wanted to talk to you about something. Here we go again, I think. What do they want now? We want you to know... Robert Jr. looks at his brothers. They all nod. That you were right. About everything. We were parasites. Spoiled brats playing with the sacrifice of generations. And we wanted to thank you, Mike chimes in, for not firing us, for giving us the chance to learn, for believing that there was still salvation for us. Because there was, I say firmly. I never stopped believing. I just had to break you down to rebuild you, just like you do with a blown engine. You tear it down, you clean every single part, and you put it back together, but better. We are better now, Dad, Eddie says. I'm a better husband, a better father. And even though I make less money, I sleep so much better. Money comes and goes, I tell him. Dignity, once lost, costs blood to get back. We finish eating. The kids run out to the garden. The wives help clear the table, even though I tell them there's no need. I stay in the living room with my 4 sons. We sit down, them on the couches, me in my favorite chair. Do you remember the day you locked me up? I ask. They look at each other, uncomfortable. Every single day, Robert Jr. says. It is the most shameful day of my life. Mine too, Charlie says. I still have nightmares where I am in your shoes. Good, yes, I say. Never forget it. Because the day you forget it, you will go right back to being what you were. I take something out of my pocket. It is an envelope. This envelope, I tell them, contains my updated will. When I die, and someday I will die, I am not immortal. You will inherit the company in equal parts. They look surprised. You're not going to disinherit anyone? Mike asks. After what we did. I'm going to disinherit you if you go back to being idiots, I say firmly. But if you continue being the men you are now, the company is yours. I built it for you. Only now I know that you will not destroy it. We will not destroy it, Dad, Robert Jr. promises. We swear it to you on Sam's memory. For Sam, the other 3 repeat. I stand up and walk over to the bookshelf. I pull out the black folder, the famous folder that made them tremble. Do you see this? I hold it up. This folder has copies of all the garbage you did. Embezzlement, fraud, incompetence. They shrink back. Today, in front of you, I am going to burn this folder. What? Robert Jr. stands up abruptly. Why? Because I do not need it anymore. You are no longer those men, and I am not the type of father who holds grudges forever. I walk over to the fireplace. Even though it gets hot here, this house has a fireplace because Sam always wanted one. I light the fire. I toss the folder in. The flames consume the papers, the secrets, the evidence. Everything turns to ash. Now, I say, turning back to them, we start from 0. not as a father and sons who betrayed each other, but as a family that has forgiven each other. The four of them stand up, walk toward me, and for the first time in 3 years, we hug. A hug between men. A hug where I can feel the muscles they gained working, where I can smell the mechanic's soap that Mike still uses even though he is not in the shop every day. I love you, boys, I tell them. I never stopped loving you, not even when you signed those papers. We love you too, Dad, they say through tears. We pull apart. Robert Jr. wipes his eyes. One more thing, Dad. We wanted to propose something to you. What is it? That you actually retire. Not the way we tried to force you to, but that you retire with dignity. That you stay on the board, that you keep signing the important things, but that you let us handle the day-to-day operations. I look at the four of them. 3 years ago, this proposal would have given me a heart attack. Today, it only brings me peace. Do you feel ready? Yes, they say in unison. Then it is fine, but on one condition. What is it? That every Sunday, without fail, you come over for dinner. Everyone. With wives, kids, girlfriends. That this table is never empty again. It's a deal, Robert Jr. says, holding out his hand. I shake it. It is not a business handshake. It is a family handshake. The following Sundays were exactly the same. A full table, steaming chili, kids laughing, stories from the company, and me sitting at the head of the table, watching them grow, not in age but in character. I knew I had done the right thing. That hour they gave me to pack was not an hour of defeat. It was an hour of preparation, an hour to pack the tools I would need for the most important battle of my life, the battle for my sons' souls. And I won it. I did not win it with screaming. I did not win it with blows. I won it with strategy, with patience, and with tough love, because sometimes love is not giving them everything they ask for. Sometimes love is taking away everything they do not deserve until they learn to earn it. Today I'm 77 years old. My knees crack more, my eyesight is worse, but my heart is full, because I have what money cannot buy. A real family. Not a family made of paper, but a family made of steel, tempered in the fire of adversity. And when my final hour comes, and it will, because that is life, I will go in peace. Because I will know that RSG Trucking is in good hands. In hands that know the value of sweat. In hands that respect the worker. In hands that will never forget where they came from. That afternoon, when everyone had left, I stayed sitting on the porch. The sun was setting. The same orange sun that has painted the sky all these years. Sam, I thought, looking up at the sky. We did it. The boys learned. They are men now. And I swear I felt a warm breeze, as if Sam were answering me. Well done, my love. Well done. I closed my eyes and smiled. The hour they gave me to pack was the most important hour of my life. Because in that suitcase, I didn't just pack clothes and documents. I packed the plan that would save my family. I packed the folder that would teach them respect. I packed the rosary that would keep me sane. And above all, I packed the certainty that a father who truly loves is not the one who gives everything, but the one who teaches them to earn it all. Epilogue. 5 years later, Grandpa Robert passed away in his sleep. He was 79 years old. The funeral was the largest New York City had seen in years. Hundreds of trucks from all over the country came to say goodbye to him. They blocked 4 avenues. But this time, no one complained, because everyone knew they were saying goodbye to a legend. Robert Jr., Mike, Charlie, and Eddie carried the casket, with calloused hands, with strong backs, with tears in their eyes, but with dignity in their hearts. RSG Trucking not only survived, it became the most respected logistics company in the country. Not because it was the biggest, but because it was the fairest. And in the main office, where the photo of Grandpa Robert used to be alone, there is now a photo of Grandpa Robert with Sam, and below it, a plaque. A father is not the one who gives everything. He is the one who teaches how to earn everything.